All right, let's talk about a truly incredible underdog story. We're going to dive into how a local snack company from Gujarat, one that literally started in a movie theater lobby, grew so huge that it has global giants like PepsiCo nervously looking over their shoulder. This is the Balaji Wafers playbook.
So let's just start with a number that is absolutely staggering. 40,000 crore rupees. That's about $5 billion. And that's the kind of valuation that big-time private equity firms are floating for Balaji Wafers. And here's the kicker. A lot of people outside of Western India might have never even heard of them. And what makes that number even crazier is where this whole thing began. I mean, we're not talking about some fancy boardroom or a high-tech food lab. Nope. It all started in a simple cinema canteen in Rajkot. The founder, Chendubai Virani, he just noticed that the potato wafers he was frying himself were selling out way faster than anything else. That's it. A simple observation. So you have this massive, multi-billion-dollar valuation on one side and this tiny, humble beginning on the other. It just begs the question, right? In a market completely dominated by global giants with insane R&D and advertising budgets, how on earth did a regional player pull this off? What is their secret sauce?
Okay, so here's how we're going to unpack their playbook. We'll start with their origin story, then see how they cracked the product itself. After that, we'll get into their brilliant distribution strategy, how they fought back against the giants, and then we'll ask the big question, what's next for them? All right, let's start at the very beginning and trace this incredible journey from that simple cinema canteen all the way to becoming an industrial colossus.
I mean, just look at this growth curve. It is unbelievable. It starts with that one observation in a cinema way back in '74. Then, about 2 decades later, what was basically a backyard hustle finally becomes a real automated factory. And flash forward to today, they are pulling in nearly 5,550 crore in annual sales. Just incredible. So, how did they build such a profitable business from this? Well, making a great potato chip consistently is actually a lot harder than it looks. And it all starts with the potato itself.
And right here, you can see the difference in their whole philosophy. On one hand, you have PepsiCo, who poured millions into engineering the perfect potato, this FC5 variety, and then locked farmers into these super strict contracts. Balaji, though, they had no R&D muscle, so they did the exact opposite. They went local. They built personal relationships with thousands of farmers in Gujarat's potato belt and then invested in their own cold storage. They basically turned unpredictable agriculture into a stable, factory-like supply chain.
Okay, so you've got your potatoes. Now you have to get the pricing right. And this is where Balaji became absolute masters of something called the grammage game. See, in India, those 5 and 10 rupee price points are sacred. You just don't mess with them. So when your own costs go up, you don't raise the price. You just subtly, slightly reduce the amount of chips in the bag.
And check this out. This is what that game meant for you, the customer. At one point, a 10 rupee pack of Balaji's chips had a solid 35 grams of chips. A Lay's pack, only 23 grams. This created this incredibly powerful perception of more chips, less air. You really felt like you were getting a better deal, and that feeling builds a ton of trust over time. But look, having a great product that feels like a good deal is totally useless if people can't find it, right? And this is where Balaji's methodical, almost military-like plan to own the local shop shelf comes into play.
They followed this simple but brilliant playbook, a lot like the retailer D-Mart. The rule was, first, completely saturate and dominate your home state, Gujarat. Only when you've won there do you expand to the state right next door, Maharashtra, then Rajasthan, then Madhya Pradesh. This adjacency strategy kept their logistics cheap and simple, and it let that powerful word of mouth build naturally. And because their distribution was so efficient, it freed up a ton of cash. So instead of pouring money into expensive TV ads, rivals were spending up to 12% of their sales. Balaji kept their ad budget at a teeny tiny 2 to 4%. Their strategy was genius in its simplicity. Just be everywhere. Let the product's constant presence in every single local shop do all the talking.
So what was the result of this focused, super disciplined strategy? Absolute, total domination. In their core markets in Western India, Balaji commands a mind-blowing 65% of the market for chips and snacks. They're not just a player in the game, they are the game. Now, you can probably guess what happens next. When you get that big and that dominant, you can bet the biggest player in the world is going to notice. And that led to some serious head-to-head confrontations with PepsiCo. And yeah, this fight got ugly, and it moved straight to the courtroom. It kicked off in 2013 with a lawsuit over packaging design. Then, in 2018, a court actually blocked Balaji from selling their version of a ridged chip. But the real peak was when PepsiCo started suing farmers in Balaji's home turf of Gujarat for growing its special patented potato. That move, let me tell you, created a massive public backlash. You know, for most regional companies, this kind of sustained legal pressure would be a death blow. But this is where Balaji made a really critical bet. They gambled that their customers were loyal to the Balaji name and the value it stood for, not to some specific color or font on a package. So they just completely redesigned their packaging, doubled down on what made them great, and came out of the fight even stronger. So, after winning their home turf so decisively, the next logical question is a big one. Can this local magic actually work on a national stage? Because the challenges ahead, they're pretty significant. See, this is the classic innovator's dilemma. If you want to go national, you probably have to standardize your recipes, which could flatten out those local tastes that people love. You've got to ramp up advertising, which eats away at the low-cost advantage that made you successful. And if you take on outside investors, there's going to be pressure to launch premium products, which could totally alienate the core 5 and 10 rupee loyalists who built your company. It's like every step forward could destroy what made you special in the first place. The prize, though? The prize is absolutely enormous. India's salty snacks market is already huge, at nearly 44,000 crore rupees, but it's projected to more than double to over 95,000 crore rupees in less than a decade. The potential for growth is just off the charts. And this quote right here, it really gets to the heart of why everyone from ITC to PepsiCo is so interested in them. What Balaji has built, that supply chain, that distribution network, that incredible brand trust, it's something that money alone just can't buy. You couldn't just throw cash at this problem and replicate it. It would take years, probably a decade, and way more capital than anyone is willing to admit. And so, that leaves us with the final fascinating question. As Balaji stands on the verge of maybe becoming a true national challenger, will they be able to take that local magic and scale it across all of India? Or will the very act of going national be the thing that finally dilutes the magic that made them so special in the first place? That, right there, is the 40,000 crore rupee question.